Siem na strelacha. Siem at naquilia. I kunis chiet. Siem na strecha. La quax stetangas. Kunis ne ella. Tia tengen. So I tutten squela kunsella. Tia tengen. Iesen kunstetchel. I kunis u angst. At the stiwiel. Tia enuk. I su chiet at gels. Huisko siem na kwachacha titel, siem al gels. Ons anges tal getia squaichel. Gonga kunsu kwant makotlingel getia enok. Swinga tal getia enok, siem na kwachacha titel, siem al gels. Gonga kunt konengete ja tamok suaika, slantleini, tia elten. Su ait kutte skoile kunsteja, su stangis te skois jazz. Tia tengen, siem na kwachacha titel, siem al gels. Konga kuns konenga tauch su stangis te skois jazz. I su ait kutte skoile kuns makotlingel, tia enok, siem na kwachacha titel, siem al gels. I haiska, kuns laleitnang tia na stiwiel. I kuns kwant makotlingel, siem na kwachacha titel, siem al gels. I haiska hela siem. I kunis tia tanga hela. Siem suaika, siem slantleini, makunsene ella. I Heloksen kun stetchelnang at the tia enok. Tutseokta at the chuckschals. Su clout nang at salta at the nessa nuts a squaichel. I kunis chia tanga hela kalet, makunsene. I kunisu Jakten the squels, Tlutl al kunis tuch hours at the konitumkan. Haiska hela siem. My dear friends and relatives, I just want to give thanks to each and every one and acknowledge each and every one of you for being here this evening. I just want to really give thanks to Emily for giving me this opportunity to be here with each and every one of you. As I offer words in my language, my name is Stamachelton. My English name is Ian Sam. I am from here in the Sidney territory of the village, just near Brentwood Bay. And I'm a advocate for the language. I just really wanted to give a blessing and open the way for some of our good friends that'll be sharing some good things with each and every one of you. As the timing couldn't be much better. As mental health is such a large thing that I'm really happy that's being addressed during these times, especially during all of these COVID restrictions of each and every one of us being isolated with our families. I couldn't express my appreciation to each and every one enough for each and every one of our presenters that are here this evening. And once again, I give thanks to each and every one of you for being here and supporting this wonderful event. And I'm going to share another song with you that comes from my family. And I just want to share this song with each and every one of you to uplift your feelings today. And I offer my prayers and my language. I ask the Creator to look after each and every one of us, and ask that medicine be brought throughout the words that are going to be presented this evening. And I just want to be encouraging to each and every one that'll be presenting tonight, as mental wellness is such a big concern during these trying times in this modern era that we're in. So once again, I thank each of you for allowing me this time to share this evening, as I move to share this other song, as I offer this song as a medicine to each and every one of you as we move into our evening. Haishka Hilla. Haishka Hilas Yam. And I hope everyone enjoys your evening. Thank you again for having me here. Such a blessing to be a part of this gathering. Once again, thanking each and every one of you for allowing me this time. Haishka Hilas Yam.
Haishka Stamalkaltin. I really appreciate your song and prayer. My name is Emily Olson, and I want to welcome you all to the 4th Connection Project. I'm happy to be here, and I've been blessed this past year to learn some Chothan words and phrases from Stamalkaltin and other language teachers in the community, the language of this place, the language of my husband's family, and my children. This is the 4th mental health storytelling event that has taken place here in Satinas, in Sidney, and it is a great honor to conduct this event in the Saanich territory. So, Haishka. For those speaking tonight, I wish to express my sincere gratitude for your bravery and courage in doing so and for sharing your stories. I would also like to acknowledge the ones who have come before you. And for me, being the 4th year, it's important to say the names of the people that have done work on this stage in the previous years. And my wish is that you will draw great strength in hearing their names and that it help you prepare as you get ready to come on stage tonight. Joni Olson, Ian Bruce, Jeff Cousteau, Elizabeth Hall, Ocean Johnston, Ella Barron, Ryan Painter, Wendy Picken, Leslie Gentile, Karen Lee White, Swetalicia Renee Sampson, Jessica Williamson, Jen Verscher, Rhonda Underwood, Joseph Briante, Michelle Frank, Megan Supernault, John Close, Lisa Bosman, Zahanap Adam Olson, Caleb Bears, Ella Hale, Johnny Frem Dixon, Suzanne Venuta, Tulkanikt, Elaine Alec, and Ames Gentile, some of whom are here tonight. So to begin this evening, we have Chantal will be leading us in a sound bath. And I invite any audience members who are more kinesthetic than auditory to please come down to the stage and sit to feel the vibration. You'll notice the X marks if you want to sit with safe physical distancing. Otherwise, feel free to remain in your seats. And as they get set up, I would just like to share a poem called Water. When I was a child, I loved to swim, and there's something about being underwater that feels right for me. And sometimes, even now, I let myself imagine I'm underwater again, where every piece of me is wrapped and held, and I am young once more. And then comes that moment when I feel I can let go, and I do, and I meet the surface and exhale and breathe, and I breathe that refreshing air. I purify, I remember that water is life, and know that I am never drowning or in danger, and that I remember I am life, and nothing is ever wrong or needing fixing, and I can just slow down and float and be cleansed and purified once more, and even the most anxious and worrisome thoughts, even if I lose my way, I can just relax, and the force inside my chest will guide me home again, and if I just go with the flow, I will be carried to an answer that will be the way forward. And this will show me that the point of it all is to be happy and enjoy the goodness of my existence. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. As Emily mentioned, my name is Chantal, and I will be guiding you through a 10-minute sound bath and breathwork offering this evening. And so, beginning this sound bath, this vibrational experience by closing your eyes or finding a gaze point somewhere softly in front of you. Allowing your shoulders to melt down away from your ears. Inviting a softness into the muscles of your jaw. A softness and a sweetness to the space that surrounds your eyes. The intention of this sound bath is to create a sense of connection to this space, creating a sacred space for those that will share, create this evening, to cultivate a sense of connection to one another in this room as we share this experience of vibration and sound. And ultimately, through this experience, we create and cultivate a deeper sense of connection to self, to the heart inside your heart, your essence. And we can begin this by noticing the center of your body, your breath. Perhaps filling the belly like a balloon. Noticing the rise and fall of your chest as the air flows through your lungs. Even the cool sensation of the exhale through your nose, just simply noticing without judgment where the breath shows up, this sense of vitality. And now all together, exhaling all of the breath out of the body. Inhale 1, 2, 3, 4, holding at the top on the inhale, breathing in all the way to the top of the breath, filling the body completely, reaching the top of the breath and holding. Holding, exhale, releasing, emptying the breath from the body completely. Reaching the bottom of the breath and holding here in this blank, flat space. Inhale, filling the body with the breath. Breathing in all the way to the top of the breath. Breathing in until there is no more space left. One final time. Reaching the top of the breath and holding. Exhale, releasing. Emptying the breath completely from the body. Here we can begin to return to a natural flow, natural rhythm of the breath, keeping our eyes closed. Noticing the shoulders melting away from the ears and perhaps this alignment of the shoulders to the hips as we truly arrive in this space. Noticing this ease and this softness entering into the body and into the mind. And when we are able to invite this peace, this softening, we can allow the vibrations created by these ancient sound healing tools to begin to vibrate the water element in our bodies. With every inhale, you can repeat the mantra Om. And with every exhale, Shanti. Shanti, letting go. With each new sound, each new vibration, this new experience is able to ripple through the body, connecting with a different space within the physical body and the mind. Om. Sitaram, Sitaram, Sitaram Jai, Sitaram, 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 Sitaram Jai, Sitaram, Hare Slowly beginning to bring awareness back into your body. Opening your eyes. Sensing this experience of connection through the vibrations created by these sound healing tools that have connected us to one another, to ourselves, to this wonderful offering that is the Connection Project. Namaste.
Every time I cry, a little piece of my sanity drips away with each tear. I have cried so many tears, it's amazing there's anything left. I hate myself. I hate the rage, I hate the darkness. I hate that I hate myself. I hate that I feel things so deeply that I get overwhelmed and I just can't go on, and I curl up in a little ball and I just cry. I hate that I know what the feeling of razor blades across my skin feels like, and I think that I hate the fact that I can tell to the second when that first bead of blood is going to poke through. I hate the fact that I've graduated to knowing that if I claw at myself with my own fingernails in the shower, I will have welts that look like I've been whipped and beaten. Because that's exactly how I feel, as if I have been whipped and beaten by my own mind. I hate the fact that when I close my eyes, I see a monster, and the monster looking back is me. I hate that the voices in my head tell me I'm useless, tell me I'm a failure, tell me I'm a no good mother, tell me I'm a lousy employee, I'm lazy, and I'm taking advantage of sick days. I hate the fact that I know exactly what it feels like to rail at the sky and scream and beg for death. And to want that release, to not want to go on, to just want everything to stop. I hate myself when I look in the mirror. I hate myself when I'm driving down the road. I hate myself every single day. So what do? When all around me are moments and reasons for me to leave, how do I stay? What do I need? What do I do? What can I give myself? Because nobody else can give it to me. I have to do it for myself. So I find one reason every single day, just one. It doesn't even have to be a big one. Yesterday it was a chocolate-covered almond. I hate the fact that there is nothing on this earth that made me want to actually be here tonight, and I hate the fact that I needed to be here and I wanted to be here, and it is very important that I am here, but yet I still didn't want to be here. I hate the fact that nobody knows the truth about what I go through every single day, the pain that I live in, the pain in my mind, and how much I hate myself. I've never told anyone the truth. No one could handle the truth. That's what I've told myself. No one could handle it. No one would be there. They would run screaming the way that I want to run screaming from the room right now. The way that I want to run screaming from the world every single day because I hate myself. So what do I do? Just that one thing, every day. When the voice in your head is telling you that you're failing while you're actually succeeding, it can be a very confusing existence. I was on my black belt test 4 years ago. I had waited 10 years to take this test. I had taken the test injured. I had Achilles tendinosis in both ankles. I could barely walk, but I was going to do an 18-hour black belt test. We went hard for 6 hours, we rested for 6, and then we went hard for 6 more. I did not sleep, I barely ate, I consumed very little water during this test. I have no idea why. The whole time I'm doing this test, the voice in my head is telling me that I'm going to fail, I'm not going to get my black belt, I am not good enough. On day 2, my muscle cramped in my leg and it pulled on my Achilles tendon and I screamed and had to sit down. My sensei comes over to me and he tells me, "You've done enough. You have done enough." This is the man who has taken me from white belt all the way through to my black belt, and he is telling me I have done enough, and I did not need to get back up. I got back up, and I went back out on that floor, and I finished that test. And I limped up, and I got my black belt tied on that day. I had accomplished the goal. To this day, I do not feel that I deserve that belt because I don't believe I did enough, because I did not do the entire test, because I sat there for an hour with an ice pack on my ankle. I know I did enough. I worked my butt off to get that belt, but I don't believe that I deserve it, even though I have been told repeatedly that I did enough. Over the years, I've learned little tips and tricks, things to help me cope, things to help me get by, things to help me get through. You'll notice this thing dangling from my wrist. It is a counter. I quite literally stole the idea from a meme. As I go throughout my day, I'm training myself to recognize and acknowledge the good moments. Click. There's one. There's my chocolate-covered almond. At the end of the day, I sit down with my journal, my gratitude journal, and I write down one thing, just one thing that day that I am grateful for. A week ago, it was that my husband bought me the sweatshirt for Orange Day because I so desperately wanted that sweatshirt. Even though I already had 2 of the t-shirts, I really wanted the sweatshirt. But I couldn't pull it off with my budget. He squeezed his so that I could get this sweatshirt. That was my gratitude statement for the day, the reason that I stayed. It's all about just teaching myself to acknowledge that in amidst all the darkness that my mind keeps telling me is there, that there is light and there is a reason for me to stay, and that I am not a failure, I am not a bad mother, I am not my mental illness, I am not my depression, I am not my anxiety, I am not my PTSD, I am not whatever label the doctors want to put on me. I am a good mother. I am a good wife. I am a CBK black belt. My name is Elizabeth Hall. Thank you.
A stair malfunction earlier. Yeah, well, Mike Tyson said everybody has a plan until they get punched in the face. I just got punched in the face. I'd love to be able to introduce T-bot to you. That's a version of myself that I've become quite comfortable with in front of people. It's a version of myself, a mask I've worn for years and years and years. One that has helped me cope with life and show up in front of people, just to get through it. We're all going to get uncomfortable together. I hope we're all friends here, right? I'm going to share with you Trevor. Trevor's a good person. He's a guy I don't know super well, but I've spent the last two and a half years getting to know him, and he seems like a pretty good guy, so we're going to keep hanging out. I got to say that the wisdom, the little bit of wisdom I'll share tonight when talking about my experiences, the culmination of 2.5 years of hard work, of digging deep, crashing into a residential treatment center for 60 days, continued work with my peers and professionals, and just the determination to not go back to where I was. Has anybody had a first day of school? Anybody? First day of school, or maybe a high school reunion? Maybe you had to get on stage. What was the night before like? Can anybody connect to that feeling? Is it fair to say there was some anxiety, some fear? Did anybody ask themselves, what if people don't like me? What if I'm not enough? I don't belong there. For as long as I can remember my life, back to my first day of school, the first time I left my family home where I felt safe and entered into the real world outside those doors, I've had that feeling every night before. Every night before, every day after. Didn't matter what the event was, what the reason was, what the big event was. Every night before every day, I just carried that anxiety, that feeling like I don't belong. What if people don't like me? What if I'm going to be alone? I graduated to, what if people figure out the truth? It gets hard to deal with. My father was a huge part of my life. I had a beautiful family life. My mom, super hard worker and just beautiful woman, and my dad, he was a hero. He was a community hero. I admired my father a great deal. He, the one downside is my dad. He was a community dad. I had to share him because like this, he literally pulled survivors out of a plane crash. So really big set of shoes this guy wore, and I loved that. I wanted to be that guy so badly. Unfortunately, school didn't go well for me. I didn't like being there. I didn't apply myself. I didn't feel like I belonged. I didn't have a lot of friends. I didn't have people I could count on. I felt sort of invisible. So when I went out in the world, I helped my dad build a house, my family, and construction was a natural place to go. I got to say, hero dads, and I know this now, and in the construction industry, a really tough place for people to get a healthy concept of manhood and live in a healthy way. I mean, they can provide very well for your family, but it's sort of the last bastion of toxic masculinity. I mean, we don't ask for help. We drive, we push through things. My father taught me, I love him dearly, but he taught me there's not a lot of things you can't sort out by showing up to work every day, by working through it. I wasn't taught to ask for help. And he wasn't the type of guy to ask for help either. I just always wanted to be a guy that served the community and did good things, but I didn't have the wherewithal or the courage or the self-esteem or the character or the means to go to school to find that job. I always built this image of my father in my mind, like I got to be that guy. I got to be that guy to make a difference for somebody. And so I went into construction, and my hard work paid off. I found myself finding my way into leadership positions. And I don't say that to brag. I've spent, more of my career in leadership positions than not. And I share that because I'm told constantly in my recovery, people that look like me, men that look like me and do what I do need to share these stories. I'll tell you, recent statistics say that of the people, of the number of people that have overdosed in the last few years, of those who have a job at the time that they lose that battle, the vast majority of them are men in construction. My whole life I've carried that weight with me of feeling like the whole world's on my shoulders and that I got to produce and I've got to be there for people. And I've given myself away so much to try and be there for people and support people that have the same struggles I do. The problem with that is I've lost myself in it. My whole sense of who I am is absorbed in this T-bot. This guy that can handle and do anything is unflappable. He's the problem solver. 10 years ago, my whole life was just problems. My job sites, I always got the tough jobs, the tough clients. I had all the young guys were in tough spots. They confide in me. We'd work through it. Go talk to Trevor. He'll sort it out. He'll figure it out. And it really became overwhelming. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know how to ask for help. I thought that I'd lose everybody around me. And so from there, I started to, this, I call it undiagnosed mental disorders. Like I know that now through that clarity and through sitting with the professionals. But I just thought I was broken. I saw my father. I grew up with a father that could do anything and it never set him back. I grew up with a mother. Honestly, to this day, I'm so amazed by her bravery and the courage she's faced every challenge in her life. And I just thought, why it wasn't hard for them. Why is it so hard for me? Why can I not go into a room and feel comfortable? Ever. It was terrible. Like I can't even tell you the pain, like the despair. And so I started grenading my life. I quit my job and I became very erratic and things just started to add up. When I went to rehab, I thought I was going there to quit doing drugs. I found out I had to, I had a lot of other things that I needed to deal with, and the drugs were just, a symptom. Actually, I'd say the drugs were the medicine. The drugs are what postponed the inevitable outcome. I had found that I'd been actually in active addiction for the last 20 plus years of my life. It was alcohol, it was work, it was relationships, it was sex, it was drugs, fitness, steroids, bodybuilding, clothing, shiny things. If it could make me feel different and valid and like I had something cool. I was a kid, I used to fantasize about getting the Miami Vice outfit, like showing up to school, and everybody be like, that's a cool dude, we want him to be our friend. Right? And I carried that through my life. I had to have the nicest bicycle, the nicest truck, the nicest, you name it. But the weight of all this, just constantly standing up, and when that didn't work, it was something else. And so where it ends for me, where it ended, March 6, 2019, it was a special day. Very special day for me. It wasn't unlike a lot of other days up until that point. The pattern had become pretty ingrained for the last 18 months. I'd get up, take 2 pills. These weren't the medicine. These ones just eased the symptoms of the medicine to put my mind back together so I could go out in the world, have my cold shower, make a tea, and then commute to work, do my hour-and-a-half drive. Hating myself and paranoid that people were going to figure out who I really was. Here I was, I have this job that puts me in front of people. I'm some sort of leader. I'm some sort of person they can count on, and if they only knew the truth, they would just hate me. I'm so ashamed. I'm so ashamed of where my life had come to. What would my father think? Get to work, straight to my office, minimal conversations with the people around me. Don't let them see you. Don't let them see you. They're going to know. They'll see it in your eyes. They'll know the condition you're in. Just got to make it to lunch. Please, if I can just get through this day, please, I won't do it again. I'm done. Just let me get through this day without them knowing the person I am. I'm so ashamed myself. My father would be ashamed. I would have passed the lie detector. Noon, straight to my vehicle, find a shady tree to park under, close my eyes, get some rest. We just got to get through the afternoon, Trevor. We're almost there. The feelings are there, though. The feelings, the despair, the pain, the anger, the self-loathing and hatred. Like, why does it always have to be like this? Why can't I just go out in the world and feel comfortable? Wake up, pop 2 more pills. This will get me through the afternoon. I'm starting to get pretty confident now. Amnesia's starting to set in. Those feelings are starting to hurt. They're really starting to get into me. 4 o'clock, call the pharmacist. My pharmacist is a little different than your guys' pharmacist. He doesn't work in the mornings. He's quite often not up very early, and I actually had no rights to be up that early in the morning either. I was in no condition to be worlding. Hit the pharmacist, hit rush hour traffic. Laptop flipped over beside me. The medicine. Get it in me. First hit. All that anxiety that I've been carrying for the last 20 years, like a weight on my shoulder, all the pain, the despair, the torment, all the bad feelings go rushing out of me like shoppers into a Walmart on Black Friday. They couldn't get out of me fast enough. And now would start the next 4 to 6 hours, the only 4 to 6 hours of peace I got in my life. Get home. Quick hi to my mother, because honestly, I'm in my mother's basement. This is where I've been for the last 8 months. She's got a beautiful basement suite. I still can't go down there. Rush past mom. 18 months prior, I'd been given a diagnosis, finally diagnosed with the depression and anxiety disorder. And I'd been using this very cleverly. Addicts can be extremely clever with our excuses. So I'd been able to hide behind this diagnosis for the last year, masking all my symptoms. It was great. Even the doctor told me, hey, it's probably just depression, anxiety. We'll treat that. You probably don't need to go to treatment. You'll probably be okay. You'll probably be able to quit the drugs. Of course, that wasn't wrong. So that didn't work out right. So I hated myself for that. So the doctor said this would work, and it doesn't. So I'm super ultra broken. Downstairs, me alone in the dark and the locked door, me and my medicine. I had a strategic amount of medicine to get because I knew I didn't want to run out until I was ready to run out, but I knew I couldn't stop until I ran out. So there's a benchmark to hit there. So me alone, feeling calm. Now around midnight, the pain starts coming back in. Cracks the door, the shame, the anxiety, the pain, the torment, the self-hatred all starts coming back in. And by 4 o'clock in the morning, it is pounding in my head. I'm out of the medicine now, but I know the routine. Lay awake, staring at the ceiling in the dark, telling myself how much I hate myself. Alarm goes off, pop 2 pills, here we go again. March 6th, though, was a special day. This was it for me. It was game over. I tried so hard. On my own to get a handle on this. I thought even if I can quit the drugs, self-medicating, I don't think I can. I just can't live. I can't make it in this world. I don't want to be out there anymore like this. And my father would be so ashamed of me. March 6th was a very special day. It was the last day for that. 4:30 in the morning, I decided that it probably wouldn't be a good idea, as much as I wanted to. It creeped into my head that, 2 years before, a gentleman had shared his story, a man I respected very, very much in the community, but I didn't know his backstory. I didn't know his history. I just knew how much this man cared, how much respect he got, and how much people admired him. And when I saw him share his story that is a little not undifferent than mine, I remember that cracked the door of hope. And in that moment, I decided I'd rather be the addict that dies trying than just giving up right now. And so the next day, I was fortunate and privileged enough, because not everybody has this opportunity. I was able to ask for help, and the next day, I was in treatment by 2 p.m. I showed up there with people saying, hey, do you think this is a barbecue? That mask, that T-bot was so strong in me. It wasn't serving me well, though, anymore. That started the greatest journey of my life, one of the hardest. I mean, things got a lot worse before they got better. But I figured out in my mind that I have a responsibility to share my story when asked. And I think we need to create safe spaces for men to be not okay. I have a higher power now. His name is Tyler. We talk a lot. He looks out for me. And I've increased that spiritual connection to that higher power. And he tells me a few things I want you to take with you tonight. Love yourself, Trevor. You're enough. You don't have to be perfect. Your Father loves the shit out of you. You chose the hard way, and you're still standing there. And making a difference in community and being a hero just takes just little things. Doesn't have to be big. Doesn't matter what you do. You can just go out there, share with others, buy that coffee unexpectedly for somebody, whatever it is. Just do something and then just follow that path that is provided ahead of you. And don't overthink it. I was terrified tonight. I wrote this 4 times, 4 different versions of this, and then anxiety set in, and I said, I'll figure it out later, and then I procrastinated, and then here we are. And I still wanted to procrastinate, so I was hoping to get the last billing, but unfortunately I did not, so I couldn't wait. So here we are. But I'm proud of who I am. For the first time in my entire life, I'm really proud of the man that I am. I'm proud of the people I have around me. My list of people I'm close to is very small, but it's very powerful. And I'm a miracle to be standing here. Since last Thursday, I've received 3 phone calls of people that weren't so lucky. I arrived tonight to hear stories of people who lost equal in the last week and a half. This is very real. These challenges are very real. And it's spaces like this where we can come together and share our stories and be of service to others. Thank you very much.
I shouldn't have worn makeup today. Ait tangin Australicha. Ait quanis tachel atiatanoch, sanach atiatanoch. Helixan quanis tachel. Sarah Jim thanasnet, chesalasanet, sanach, chesalasanet, psychum elalungs. Sequempton thanamain, Wendy thanatain. So I just said, good evening, my friends. I acknowledge the land we're on. This is Saanich. These are my homelands. And then I said, I'm glad to be here. And then I introduced myself. My name is Sarah Jim. I'm from Saanich, from the Sycam village. My father's name is David Jim. He's of Coast Salish and Mexican ancestry. And my mother's name is Wendy Jim. She's Russian Jewish. And I'm kind of thinking about what I'm saying because I just learned that those phrases in Sinchothan. My sister's a language revitalist, and she taught me recently, so I'm trying to practice as much as I can. And I was sitting in my seat watching Stamalcolton sing, and I started crying, and I'll probably cry multiple times tonight. And I was getting so emotional just because of all this residential school stuff that's coming up lately. And it's miraculous that you came up here and shared the culture that way, and you're so strong in it. And I was getting really emotional over that, so Hajkasiam. And then I started crying because of these beautiful speakers, and the last talk really hit close to home. I have a lot of addiction in my family, and I was very susceptible to go down that same route, but I've managed to not do that and regulate myself in ways that don't involve substances, and I'm really grateful for that. because I've seen what it does to people, and I didn't want that for myself. And I didn't plan on sharing that tonight, but I thought I would, because my dad, who has been sober for 5 years now, which is incredible, he says, speak from your heart and talk about what you know, and you'll be fine. So I'm actually an artist, an emerging artist. I am also a crew member of a place called Papakan Hayout. We're a native plant and garden nursery at the tribal school, and we, first of all, teach the kids there how to plant healthy foods like kale and carrots, but also teach them about native plants and the language and our traditional foods and medicines, and it's really wholesome, and I'm happy I get to be a part of that. But we also do environmental restoration around the territory, and that's where a lot of my practice is informed of. So I do a lot of native plant art, and I'm really happy I can merge those two things that I love, and that's been really good for my mental health, creating and being outside, healing the land. There's a lot of metaphors to removing invasive species. You're kind of clearing away those negative thoughts. My friend and colleague Papakia always says. So I was invited here by Emily, who I adore, to create artwork regarding mental health, whether that be joy or depression or anxiety. And so I thought about this. It's not usually what I do. I don't usually talk about how I feel either, or cry in front of a big audience, but I said yes because it's important to me. As an adult, I'm learning how to express myself. I had a lot of defense mechanisms as a kid, where I thought vulnerability was weak, and I'm now learning that vulnerability is really strong, actually. So after this request, I kind of thought about it and was like, okay, I'll make something, and then put it to the side. And then one night recently, I was sitting in my house. It was the evening, and I just got this overwhelming feeling of just loneliness, and nothing would make it go away. And I should be better at this, but I didn't sit with it. I was trying to mask it, and I was trying to get rid of it. So like reading books or watching shows or any kind of distraction. And it just wouldn't go away. I didn't want to bother anyone by reaching out. Well, bother anyone, but maybe I should learn how to, reach out more. But I like to be independent, and I like to, solve my own problems. And so I remembered Emily's request, and I was like, well, maybe I can kind of draw how I feel. And so this drawing on both sides of me came from that. And so I was trying to draw and depict this feeling of loneliness. And so I wanted to do this landscape image of an island. I've always kind of identified with islands. I isolate myself. I don't let people in. I don't trust people very often. And that's probably just a result of some childhood trauma. But I wanted it to look like a landscape with a sky, a horizon, and a ground. But it's not just an island. It's actually the silhouette of a person laying on their side. And this kind of represents, being in a depressive state, kind of wallowing, feeling sorry. And the heavy black sky is kind of weighing down on them, and the ground beneath them it's dissipating. They're not grounded. And so after making this image, I actually felt so much better. And I was kind of, feeling myself like, well, I'm creative and I can do this, and, this is what I love. And it made me so much happier, kind of releasing that in a way that felt comfortable with me. And so I could now finally share how I was feeling, because I'm not always so eloquent and I don't always know how I'm feeling. And so depicting it in art was really, really helpful. And I know that a lot of people do art therapy, and I've always I never really thought of it because it was just part of my life. And I came to the conclusion that art is really helpful for me in my day-to-day. And so I was reflecting on this image and of this island motif. And I think I represented it this way because I've been exploring a lot of the islands more. You know, the Gulf Islands are part of Husainich homelands, and we have a word for islands. It's tlutleches, and that means relatives of the deep. And this comes from an origin story we have where the Creator changed us, our relatives, into the islands. And he told the islands, take care of your relatives and they'll take care of you. And so there's that reciprocal relationship we have with our homelands. And so I was thinking that maybe it's okay to be an island as long as you kind of let people in and you take care of others and you have relationships. And so that was comforting for me. I get really grounded in culture and in language and in the art. So that was a really nice reflection out of something that felt so heavy and sad and lonely. So yeah, next image, please. So this drawing I made the same night because, you know, I was kind of feeling myself. I was like, I can create, I can do stuff. And so I had those creative juices flowing, and this image came from me trying to depict what anxiety felt like. And as an adult, I've kind of developed more like anxious patterns that I'm learning how to navigate. But this image came out of kind of a metaphor of trying to grow in the moonlight. So we all know plants photosynthesize from the sun, and this plant is trying to grow in an environment that's not ideal. And so it's kind of wilting and sad and black and heavy. And I was reflecting on this image too, and I was thinking, well, the good thing about nighttime is that it's cyclical, and we know that the sun will come up the next day. And so it's okay to go through those phases of kind of like being down and out, because the sun will rise and you'll feel the warmth again, and you'll have that chance to grow. So those are two of my images I created for this event, and I hope you enjoyed them. And I did better than I thought I would, so thank you.
Hi, I'm Allison Bellbin. Growing up, I vividly remember my mom telling me about what bothered her the most as an elementary school teacher was that she knew that there were kids in her class that were neglected at home. But they were the ones who were invisible and showed no outward signs. She'd say to me, imagine there's kids that go to bed hungry, not being tucked in, and not feeling safe and loved. And as awful as it is, at least kids that showed outward signs of abuse had the chance of being saved. I've repeated this story often because it explains a lot about who my mom was. It was really important to her to always try and be the voice for people who didn't have a voice. It was only recently, though, that I realized that I was telling the story of myself as an adult. I hid for a very long time in a nice 4-bedroom house in a nice neighborhood. I am the ex-wife of an alcoholic. Our marriage ended on what was supposed to be our 16th wedding anniversary. That same day, the CRA froze both our business and our personal bank accounts, and my 10-year-old daughter phoned 911 for the second time in 2 months. In that final night in the house together, even though I'd spent 18 years being told I was hard to love and the reason he drank. He couldn't believe I was doing this to him. He couldn't believe that this me leaving was payback. Especially when he loved me when I was ugly, depressed, and obese. I stand here 15 pounds heavier than I ever was in my marriage. He also made fun of my voice a lot, especially when it cracked, when I was upset, or I was desperate to be heard. And so I learned to hate the sound of my own voice, and why I'm a much better writer than I am a speaker. So bear with me, this is hard. When our second child was 6 months old, we moved provinces to be closer to my parents. A year later, my mom was dead. She suffered a catastrophic stroke just hours after I left their home. The last thing she said to me was, "I sure hope I see you on Sunday." And I'd rolled my eyes at her because the Sunday prior was the first Sunday in an entire year that we'd missed dinner with them. The next morning, my dad called. He had found her on the bathroom floor, still breathing, but essentially gone. After a week in the ICU, we had to accept it was time to let her go. I sat by her bedside holding her hand for hours as I watched her die. I drove home from the hospital alone and arrived at my house to find it dark, my kids and my husband sleeping. That was the first time in my life I felt completely alone. I stood in the middle of my dark living room, feeling lost and abandoned. I told myself then that I wasn't worth waiting up for. Addiction looks nothing like I thought it would. It happened so slowly at first that it took me a really long time to understand what was happening, and then even longer to admit to myself what was happening. He was a binge drinker, so I used to dread weddings, work events, birthday parties. But it progressed to me dreading the phone ringing, waking up, driving home. To this day, I still freeze whenever my phone rings, and I always drive to the same place in different directions, from different directions, so nothing ever feels too familiar. What he really felt about me came out when he was drunk. I braced myself for the truth that he couldn't say sober. And every morning, there was an apology or an excuse, because he couldn't remember what he said, so I must have made it up, so I had to move on. The problem was everything he said to me while drunk stuck. Without me realizing, his voice became my voice in my head. You're controlling. You're no fun. You're useless. You're worthless. No wonder no one likes you. No one wants you here. I was always trying to reconcile day versus night because he spoke very highly of me publicly and told me his truth in private. I went silent because I didn't think that anyone would ever believe that the man who spoke so highly of me could be this cruel in public, or in private, pardon me. And I didn't think anyone would believe me. And I also kind of thought he might be right. So I just vowed to try to be more of the person he spoke of publicly and hoped that would be enough. One Christmas, his mother came to stay with us. And I love Christmas. But this was a hard one for me because it was the last year our youngest child was going to believe in Santa. I've always taken great pride and responsibility in my kids' belief in fantasy and wonder. Santa, the Easter Bunny, the Tooth Fairy, they all had different pens, different paper, and different well-practiced signatures. And this year, I knew this was the end. So I bought all the gifts for my husband, my mother-in-law, and my children. And I was excited about the morning, but I was also afraid that it was going to be over, afraid it was going to go too fast. So in the morning, when the kids woke us up, I lied there in bed and tried to just stop the moment. I already felt the tears in my throat. Santa had come. They were so excited. So we went out to the living room, and they saw it exactly when I did. One of them looked at me and said, "Why wouldn't he come for you, Mom?" My stocking was empty, and there was no present for me under the tree. There stood my 3 beautiful Christmas babies in their Christmas jammies, worried, sad, and a little suspicious of what I could have possibly done to be overlooked by Santa, who obviously came for everyone else in the family. I was so upset that the morning was overshadowed by this. When they'd finished opening their presents and were occupied, I went into my bedroom to have just a moment to myself before the big breakfast with my mother-in-law. And I remember sitting on the edge of the bed and having a little cry. And my husband came in and said, "Are you seriously crying? Are you that shallow that you didn't get a present and now you're going to have a tantrum about it? You're going to ruin everybody's Christmas? Oh, I knew you would do this. No wonder my family hates visiting. You find something to pick apart every time to make them uncomfortable in our home." Nighttime truths had just crossed over to daytime truths. I used to keep a not-today list in my marriage. I wrote many of them, and I've kept a journal since I was in elementary school, and these lists never appeared until after my marriage. But I would write down, when I was very low, I'd write down my reasons to continue on, to not do it that day, to live another 24 hours. During a very particularly deep wave, I decided I needed to open up and I needed to tell my husband that I had this list and that I needed help. It was the first time since my mom died I opened up to him about this, and it was serious. When I told him, his response to me was, "I thought I married a strong woman." It took me 17 years to get the courage to walk into an Al-Anon family meeting. In all honesty, when I did, I walked in expecting them to teach me how to fix his reasons for drinking and therefore fix our marriage and fix myself. I remember seeing myself in the glass as I walked into the library, and I was just a shell of who I am. And everyone else in the building looked normal, and they were happy and smiling and chatty. There was no way that any of these people were going to be able to fix my problems. But they welcomed me into the meeting by each of them sharing what brought them to their first meeting and how they felt sitting exactly where I was sitting. I couldn't believe how open and honest and horrific some of these stories were. But they were being shared without a hint of shame. I'd never been in a room like this before. And the man beside me gave me one of the greatest gifts I've ever received when he shared. He said it wasn't until he sat where I was sitting that he realized he was as sick as the addict in his life. It was like a gift of release. I was sick too. It wasn't hard for me to hear. It was actually a relief. I was sick, therefore I deserved to heal as well. It was the first time I'd ever openly shared and let other people in. Shortly after our separation, which was only 6 months to the day of my first Al-Anon meeting, I was walking my aging yellow lab Bailey in my new neighborhood. I always use this time every morning to practice my gratefulness, something that had been so foreign to me only a year prior, but something that had helped me survive this far. I remember this morning I had thanked the crisp air and the leaves falling from the trees and the nice conversation I had with my neighbor. And we were about 2 blocks from home when Bailey froze at the end of her leash, and I froze. I knew what was going to happen, but I immediately tried to will it to stop and will it not to happen. She started having a seizure right there in the middle of the road. She fell to the concrete, and all I could do was get down beside her and tell her it was going to be okay. I laid with her as her fur got wet, and I just kept repeating and petting her, "You're going to be okay, you're going to be okay." Cars had to pull over. Neighbors came out on their lawn and asked if we needed help. And I declined and said, we're okay. And we laid there for who knows how long until she regained focus in her eyes and her rigid body started to soften and she was able to look me in the eye. And I said, we're okay. We're okay. When we were both ready, we got up together and we slowly and carefully walked each other home. 18 years of feeling unlovable and worthless lives in my bones. I know it's up to me to decide if I allow it to haunt me or not. My life looks nothing like it did 3 years ago. But I still struggle. I struggle with loud noises and raised voices. I struggle on my evening walk when I hear shouting coming from houses. I struggle with people's good intentions, and I struggle with compliments. I also struggle with standing here that I don't have an ending. I don't have something that each one of you can carry home in a little package. But I also get to say, enough now. A dear friend of mine said these 2 words to me when I finally had opened up to her what had been going on in my life, just 2 weeks before I moved out on my own. She, like a lot of people, had no idea. And I was busy justifying his behavior and my reasons for having stayed so long. And she just simply said, enough now. 2 words that I now repeat in my head when my brain gets too busy, voices come back to haunt. The good news is it's replaced a lot of the voices. And this one comes in a strong, kind, and caring voice. And it's all mine. Enough now. Thank you.
see any of you. I love it. My name is Kirsten. I'm 22 years old, and I'm going to share a bit about my story before I share a little bit about what I learned. I've always been a very independent, determined, and stubborn person right from the start. But when I was a child, I struggled a lot with feeling like I didn't fit in, like I had nothing to offer the world, and I just didn't really know what I was doing. As I got a little bit older, I started to struggle a lot with anxiety and feelings of doubt about what I was doing in life. When I was 13 years old, I went out to hang out with a friend that I had known for years. I was getting ready for this day, really excited to just be around someone that I knew. And that day changed a lot of things for me, because when I went out, this person tried to choke me out and rape me that day. This changed a lot, the way that I thought about myself, the way that I thought about others, and just being able to move forward. But I was able to push all of that away, ignore all of it, and act like it had never happened. I felt a lot of shame and embarrassment, like it was all my fault, even though I couldn't have known that was coming. All I knew was that I had made it out safe, and I had to continue to live. A few months later, I started to have a lot of overwhelming feelings. I would be laying in bed, having things play over and over, and it was like the darkest cloud that I had ever seen, just engulfing me. I wasn't sure how to cope at that time because I was pretty young and I had never had anything like that happen. I began to self-harm as a way to deal with everything that was going on inside my mind, the pain, the hurt, and the anger. But I survived it. When I was 14, I developed severe chronic pain to the point where I experienced temporary paralysis. I wasn't able to move. I didn't know what was happening, and I was scared. Navigating the medical system as a 14-year-old girl definitely had its challenges. And it wasn't just the physical pain, it was the mental. It was going into appointments not knowing what was going to happen when I came out. I was being told that I was faking it, that I was lying, that I wasn't trying hard enough, and that if I just tried a little bit harder, it would be okay. And for someone who's really determined, really stubborn, and is a little bit of a perfectionist, I knew that I was doing all that I could. I knew that I was trying, and I felt like no one around me saw that. My mental health started to take a downward spiral pretty quickly. My grade 11 year, I missed almost 3 months of school. I missed out hanging out with friends, going out. I wasn't able to sleep, move. I needed help getting to the washroom, showering, dressing, everything that you take for granted, just daily things that you don't really think about. I felt like I was a burden to everyone in my life, my parents, my family, my boyfriend. I felt like I had nothing to give, and all I did was take. My grade 12 year, I missed almost 4 months of school, and I was told I wasn't going to graduate. But I'm stubborn, and I knew I was going to. So I did. But the morning of, I woke up in my bed, and I just felt like I didn't want to move. I didn't want to get up. I didn't want to have to cross the stage or have to look nice or put on a face. But I knew that my family wanted to watch me walk across the stage and commemorate this part of my life and moving on. So I got up, I went and got my hair and makeup done, and I hated every second. On my way to graduate, my dress broke, and it was strapless, thankfully. So before getting up on the stage, I just remember thinking, I really hope I'm not about to flash 3,000 people today. And I didn't, thankfully. So proud of myself. I tripped once on the way up, but that's nothing new. A few months later, I was seeing a psychologist at the time because I had been really struggling, and I knew that I needed to work through a lot of the things that I was feeling. And one night, it was the end of our session, and I was sitting in this really ugly but comfy couch. And he looked at me, and he said, "Are you okay? Do you have a plan to end your life?" And in that moment, I immediately thought, just lie. That's all you have to do, and this is all going to be over. But another part of me, the other side of my brain, was saying, just tell the truth. Because if you don't do it now, you might not have the chance to do it later, and this is going to be the last time. So I took a deep breath, and I told him yes. Now, everyone's probably heard a lot about when you get something really big off your chest, and everyone's like, yeah, feels so good. This whole weight has been lifted, and you just feel like you can fly. That's the biggest lie ever. It wasn't like that. And I immediately regret saying those words and being honest, but I knew that I couldn't go back and change it. I just had to ride along and see where it took me. And that was in an ambulance to the psychiatric emergency ward at Royal Jubilee Hospital. It was really late when I arrived there, and I remember leaving my mom on the other side of the doors, which felt like an entire world away. And the doors opened up, and I had to take a step in. And the doors closed behind me, and I immediately felt the pain and the suffering from every single person in that room. And I wanted to be able to hold all of them and say that it was going to be okay, even though I couldn't do that for myself at the time. It was really full when I was there, so I ended up sleeping on a stretcher in the hallway. And throughout the night, I heard a lot of crying, a lot of screaming, and a lot of agony. I managed to get a little bit of sleep, and when I woke up, there was a window behind me, and I remember hearing a commotion. And I looked behind me, and I saw someone being tackled by a security guard. And I remember thinking, wow, I really don't blame them for trying to run. I remember a few things from that visit. A lot of it, I was really just floating my way through. But I sat in a room with a doctor who questioned me about my history of mental illness, who asked me every single vulnerable question that you could ever be asked. And I knew that I needed help that day, so I answered everyone honestly. I sat in a hard chair with this white, cold table and the physician sitting across from me. And she looked at me and she said, "If you wanted to kill yourself, you would have already done it." And I remember thinking, well, that's kind of why I'm here. I'm asking for your help because there is a little piece of me that's trying to keep going. Now, the same person, a few minutes later, asked me about my coping mechanisms and my self-harm. She wanted to see, so I remember rolling up my sleeve. And I had never shown anyone this because it's a very vulnerable and private thing. And when I showed her, she looked me dead in the eye and she said, "Next time, you should cut deeper." And that was the moment, I felt like my entire world was falling around me, just breaking, shattering, like there was nothing left. And I knew in that moment that I would do anything that I could to get out of that building, to get out of that room, and to end it. And before you leave, they make sure that you're safe. They give you a crisis line, and they say, reach out to people you love and people who are there for you. And I remember thinking, well, I already did that, and this is where I am. So I said, yeah, definitely gonna do that. So I left. My mom drove me home, and I had a plan for that day. Because that woman standing in that room, it felt like she had taken my whole life. Every piece of me, every ounce of strength and courage that it had taken me to ask for help, and she had just crumpled it and stomped on it. But I went home and I realized I don't even know this person, and she's not going to be the reason that I end it, that I don't wake up tomorrow. She's not going to be the reason that I don't get to keep living life, or smiling, laughing, and doing all of those things. And in the midst of all of this, my dad had decided that I really needed something to keep me busy and get out of the house. And I have neighbors who have 4 kids that are homeschooled. So my dad was like, yeah, take my daughter and she'll help you. She's not doing anything. So I went over, and I remember the very first day knocking on the door, and the kids running up to the door. They'd never met me, and dragging me in, and they walked me through every single room in their house, ripping things out of the closet, off the walls, talking over each other, just trying to show me their best toys, because that's what you have to do. So a few months later, I forgot about this lady in the hospital, and I forgot about the strength and the courage that I'd had previously. I ended up attempting to take my life one night, and I remember laying in bed with these fuzzy blankets, and I was just sinking into them. And I wasn't scared. I was really just at peace. And I realized that maybe life just wasn't for me. But as I lay there for a few seconds longer, I thought about those kids. I thought about sitting in the grass on my front yard, making daisy chains with the smell of fresh cut grass and the sun on my skin, and their happy faces and tiny fingers making these little necklaces and bracelets. I thought about standing in my driveway, waiting for my boyfriend to pick me up for a date, and having them run over and tell me how beautiful I looked. And then I thought about them knocking on the door, asking my parents if I could come out to play. And I thought about my parents having to tell them no, having to explain to them that I wasn't ever gonna come out that door, that I wasn't ever gonna be able to play again, to run, to bike, to listen to their reading or help them with their math, that I wasn't ever coming home. I managed to shoot off a text to my cousin, who called my aunt, who called my mom, who came running down the stairs with my dad in tow. And I still remember the look of fear and panic in their eyes as they rushed to see if I was still breathing. I ended up living, I think, as we all know, I'm here. And I learned from all of these experiences that it's okay to talk about what you're going through. For the longest time, I held everything in. I had this feeling that I needed to be perfect, that I needed to have everything together, but that isn't the case. I lived for those kids during that time because I wasn't able to live for myself at that moment, but I've learned with time, with a lot of strength, a lot of courage, a lot of work, that I can live for myself, that I can love myself, and that I don't need anyone else to save me. And it would be a lie if I stood here and said that I don't struggle, because I do, every day. I still have thoughts of suicide almost daily, but they're just that. They're thoughts. They don't have the power that they once had over me, and I know that now. I'm not scared of them. I am at peace, and I know that I'll be okay. About a month and a half ago, I had someone in my life die from taking their life. And that was the moment for me that put everything into perspective, because I watched as the entire community and the people that loved her shattered. And I never felt like I was good enough. I never felt like I was there to give anything to the world. But the moment that that person left Earth, I knew the reality of it because I saw the impact that she had. And I've learned with time that I can do things to make a difference. I opened up about the things that I've been going through. And it's allowed a lot of people in my life to have a safe place, a calm space to be able to open up about what they're going through. I no longer have the shame or the fear that I once had, and I can openly stand here and say that everything worked out the way that it was supposed to. Thank you.
Hello, my name is William McPherson, and before I tell my story, at Emily's request, I am going to do a short rap. Damn this isolation. Like my lake swims in winter, the ice needs breaking. The pandemic's turned us into a cyber nation. Me, I couldn't bear it, caved in, went into hibernation. Belly rumbling for meaning as I awaken, 'cause lives need saving. My own included, but I'm in denial, so I dispute it. Connection Project 2021? Nope, too scared to do it, feeling stupid. When I've worn a mask, they've seen right through it like a dream that's lucid, translucent. Gotta school myself, beginner's mind, that's the blueprint. Can't be truant if I show up the student. If we're gonna have wildfires, let it be spirit's fire that's lit. Let love be the contagion. Catch it, get inspired, and shift. Admire their gifts, unique to every being whose being is mired in grit. The human soul is gold. Watch. The darkness gets retired and lifts. But for the darkness to lift, the darkness must be faced. So the darkness can be integrated. So the darkness becomes grace. That's why we get on stage and share our stories. It's a way to return home and let those of you going through it know you are not alone. The year I was born, a West African shaman was in America training to be a doctor. Upon visiting an insane asylum, he lamented, "So this is what happens to healers who are trying to be born in your culture. What a loss. What a loss that a person who is finally being aligned with a power from the other world is just being wasted." He believed that mental illness was spirit knocking on the door. He felt that if you don't answer, spirit will keep knocking on more people's doors until enough of us answer the call. When I was born, I was blue, unable to breathe. I've been fighting for breath most of my life. My head was too big to crawl. It turns out crawling is an important developmental step, and not doing so has caused me a lot of pain. When I finally stood up, I fell back down. And that has been my life, a series of falls with me struggling to get back up. In elementary school, I felt like an alien in a human meat suit. My favorite color was magenta. Despite being gifted, I was bewildered by little kids who seemed to be picking up social customs via osmosis. I learned little boys can be cruel and violent. I constructed carefully considered masks so people would like me. I realize now I'm probably on the autism spectrum. I believe I had Asperger's syndrome. My dad has it too. I think everybody on his side of the family struggles with mental illness. Thank God for my mom. For the first 29 years of my life, the love she gave me kept me alive. My nervous system could not handle high school. I was sickly and scrawny, paralyzed by social anxiety. The many cycles of antibiotics I took every year did not help. At 15, my pediatrician decided the problem was anxiety and depression, and he prescribed me Paxil. I had no idea the depths to which fear ruled my life until that fear was turned off, gone. Suddenly I felt good, really good. At night my thoughts would race, ideas dancing in my mind's eye, leaping out of the ether. In the morning I'd be exhausted. Soon I had a new diagnosis, bipolar disorder. At first, being bipolar seemed awesome. Suddenly a beautiful girl wanted to date me. Guys who picked on me suddenly showed me respect. They could sense I had a little danger in me. And doing drugs seemed like a great idea. Within 2 years, I had more diagnoses to add to my bipolarism. Borderline personality disorder, co-occurring with addiction. Quite the grab bag of problems. The answer? More medication. I'm not even sure what the question was. But before I knew it, I was taking mood stabilizers and antipsychotics and a second antidepressant to potentiate the first. Within the next decade, my weight ballooned by 100 pounds because of the meds. Now, I'm not against medication. They're an important tool we have for dealing with mental illness, but my doctors were cavalier in how they prescribed them, and they never suggested that there was anything I could do for my own mental wellness. I still get triggered by the sound of seagulls early in the morning. I live by the beach, and when I heard seagulls, it means it was dawn, and I'd spent another entire night doing drugs. I knew I wouldn't sleep. I'd long for death as I came down, ruminating about the futility of my own existence. I was the monster in my own life, and the trauma I inflicted on myself carved deep depths in my being. I don't have words to describe the despair of my addiction. I didn't have the pieces with which to construct a life or identity, but I read a book, The Brain That Changes Itself. It said that when you had a traumatic brain injury, you could heal. Your brain could rewire. It seemed logical that the brain could maybe heal from mental illness too. So 10 years after starting, I stopped all my medication without consulting my doctor, stopped doing drugs, and moved to Montreal. I would wander aimlessly at night, mystified by the groups of people having fun connecting at restaurants. Me, I was alone. I was no one. I was anonymous. Doing things that regular people can do has always been really challenging for me. I think I got fired from every job I ever had back then. This is the first year of my life I make my bed every day. Most days. But this is a big step for me. My life changed when my mom got cancer. I remember my folks telling me, trying to be so casual, it took me a while to understand what they were saying. I went outside and stood on my wizard's rock, and for the first time in my life, I cried as a man. I knew this would be the only time I cried about this. I knew I was going to take care of my parents. Animated by inspiration, this is the first time I felt like a person. This is when I learned I needed to nurture others as part of my self-care. I needed to be of service. Taking care of my parents was transformative for my family. I had been the monster in their lives too, although they did their best to never make me feel that way. My mom survived, although she's never been the same since, and as a result, can't be with us tonight. And me? I went off to school to study clinical psych, determined to help people like me. 2 years into school, about to present original research where I was credited as an author at a conference in Florida, I had a mental breakdown. I knew I couldn't go because in trying to manage chronic pain I had from never crawling, I'd gotten hooked on painkillers. And so I lost myself. Again. A year later, I went cold turkey, determined to prove the doctor wrong who told my mom it couldn't be done. And I felt this magnetic pull to enter rap battles. My health was shattered, but I discovered my local battle rap scene, filled with miscreants and vagabonds. It felt like home. This is where I learned about community. I believed my health would never be the same, but at least I got to have one last adventure. I got to feel like a person. I wasn't taking care of myself in the lead up to my last mental breakdown. I lost a lot of money on a show. I wasn't coping with stress, and my mind just broke. Now I realize this was necessary. Being broken down so I could be reforged in the crucible of my own suffering. This wasn't the last time I'd be broken down like this, but it was the hardest time. What I needed was humility. And boy, oh boy, did I get it. One second. In my newly humbled state, I used plant medicine while my mother held space, and I traveled somewhere else. Somewhere with incredible geometry and beauty, a place more real than real. There I met a magenta being, like a living hieroglyph made out of love and language. As it moved, vast sums of data were downloaded into me. Like a near-death experience, I had a complete life review, and I had it explained to me that every painful thing I'd ever been through was necessary to humble me, to make me worthy to wield this gift. Hold on, Mr. Spirit Guide, I thought. I have no gifts. I had what felt like endless wisdom condensed down until it was 2 simple words. The secret of being. Let go. So I did. Suddenly I was on a different version of Earth made of pure energy. That energy saturated every fiber of my being, and I experienced myself as infinite love. And I grew. I grew until I was 10,000 feet tall. I grew until my giant form could no longer contain the infinity of love raging inside of me. I returned to this world with a roar, using a voice I had never heard before. I could see light dancing in and out of my body. I had new abilities, new understandings. It was like I had been activated. Now, I want to tell you that after this, everything was wonderful and I lived happily ever after. The end. No. This began the long, dark night of my soul. I think it's universal. Suffering carves out deep depths inside of us that fill with trauma. But if we can get that trauma out of us, if we can clear it, those same depths fill with love. That was almost 5 years ago. I've been lost at sea for so long, and I think this is my safe harbor. This is where I drop anchor. This is the end of the long, dark night of my soul. Please understand, I am not recommending anyone go off their medication, take a bunch of psychedelics, and expect infinite love to solve their problems. My journey, my path was reckless. This could be dangerous, and nothing is more important than your safety. But what I am saying is, for me, psychedelics opened the door. And standing here tonight, with you all here holding space for me, I am trying to summon the courage to walk through that door. Give me one more moment. Whoa. Whether you're in this theater tonight, watching the recording later, or a stranger on the street, I want you to know I love you unconditionally, wholeheartedly, and unapologetically. Like family, because that's what we are. And I've been so scared to tell you. So scared I would get on the stage and say the words, but not mean them. Even more scared of what happens now, because I do mean them. I have been sick and felt powerless my entire life, but I feel my cells rejoicing, singing in harmony. In harmony. Now I'm finally telling you the truth. And I'm scared. I'm scared of my own power when I allow myself to tap into this energy. Who am I to be able to truly witness the magnificence that is you? But at the end of the day, I just wanted you to know. I see you. I know you. I love you. Feels really good to get that off my chest. Thank you.
Nailing this mask situation. This is good. Hello again. So around this time last year, Emily was encouraging me to write the song for the Connection Project 2021. And so I did. And it was the first time that I had written a song that explored my experience with anxiety and depression, addiction, codependency, exploring prescription medication and kind of the roller coaster that we find ourselves on, trying to get better and trying to feel good. And the song, initially, when I started to write it, it felt like a message to my partner. Don't let me down if I let you in. Wishing that his love was the right medicine. And when I played the song for Emily this summer, to her, she felt that really the sentiment of the song was more a message to myself. And that really resonated with me in trying to often find these external sort of forces or people or relationships or love to like fix you or save you or be this medicine that you need. And so I am very grateful for that, that feeling that you had and that sense that you had, Emily. And so this song is called Don't Let Me Quit, and this song's for me. Don't let me down if I let you in. Promise me now this won't be it. If I lose my way, you'll pull me back in. If it all falls apart and I wanna quit, don't let this be it. If the words that I speak are a promise I won't keep, read between the lines, see each part of me. If the pain that I bear is etched on my skin, if it all falls apart and I wanna quit, don't let this be it. Now I know I vow to take this in stride, even diamonds I cut. So find me in the rough and don't let me hide, lost in your arms. It all disappears, these flashes of time. I'm free from my fear. If only your love was a right medicine, when the weight of the world is too much to lift, I might fall apart, but don't let me quit. Don't let me quit. Don't let me quit. Well, this can't be it.
joy and grief. So thank you. I just want everyone to safely take off their masks for photos and give them a really huge round of applause. Thank you. And I always had this big thing about this being the 4th year, and it's a special sacred number to me, and there's a sense of completion, though we will continue. There's just something very special. And so I just wrote a little reflection to end the night, and thank you so much for being here, and also the support that you provide the speakers and the families. And it's called 4 Years Now. I called upon the beings from the many good realms, and we gathered to test the efficacy of togetherness. Veils of suffering lifted, made clear by the witnessing of each other as our whole selves. Fear turned inside out by the momentum of what it's like to be fully present, a place where no emotion is a stranger, and our inner worlds are deeply familiar to us. After all this time, I feel a sense of wholeness. I feel a healing has taken place, and it is within this willingness for connection and the sharing of our stories, we change our lives. We become well. Thank you, everybody. Yeah.
Bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, take me back in time before we lost, before we failed. On the other side of town, I know you're out with her, you lied to me, you let me down. Now my bags are packed and the city's in the mirror. Forget all about you and me and this perfect little failure. As I wait by the stairs, I look behind me and wonder, do you even notice or do you care? Bare feet and messy hair, I took the whiskey, left a note and my perfume in the air. Now my bags are packed and the city's in the mirror. Forget all about you and me and this perfect little failure. You took me down to the spring. I'd wonder if you love me, let you do just about anything. I lost me when I found you. I fell apart in tiny pieces, our planet's surface roots. Now my bags are packed and the city's in the mirror. Forget all about you and me and this perfect little failure. I forget what lights me up. Was it you or was it the whiskey? Our dream she interrupts. our story left untold. I lie awake and wonder, is it her hand now that you hold? Boy, my bags are packed, my city's in the mirror. Forget all about you and me and her perfect little figure. Tears fill my eyes, my destiny's no clearer. I forget about me, I think of you, wonder if you're near her.